Welcome back to another episode of the Collaborative IEP podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Barlow, and I am so happy you're here. So, here's what we're going to do. I am currently waiting for a Starbucks order. I just had my mammogram and I went to, I came around the corner to Starbucks because I haven't had my second cup of coffee. And yes, I do have sweaty pits. The no deodorant thing is the worst part of all. Um, well, if it's a regular routine mammogram, the no deodorant thing is more uncomfortable for me than the squeezing and the pulling and the turning your head in different directions. Um, and the Starbucks was super crowded. Like it's a drive-through one, and I mean, there's probably 15 cars in line. So I ordered from the app. It's 20 degrees outside, so I'm gonna sit in my car, but we're gonna do something really fun. Now, look, I'm at Starbucks. So you see it in the background if you're watching on YouTube. So I'm sorry the audio isn't super great this week. We're perfectly imperfect, and I don't have any kind of headphones in my car. But that's kind of the point. Because as you know, the idea in the IEP Guru videos is that they are super short. I say in the videos that I hope to be able to educate and empower you on key topics in special education advocacy and the amount of time it takes you to drink a cup of coffee, which I think is under 20 minutes, 12 to 20, actually 6 if you're me. So I thought while I wait 12 minutes for my coffee, I'm going to prove to you how I can teach you something really, really helpful in 12 minutes or less. Now, I've just talked to you for a minute and 48 seconds. And so we're taking that off. Like I am stopping the timer at 12 minutes here. Because here's my point is I want for you to understand that special education advocacy is not super hard. Um, yes, there is a lot to learn, but I've got like little ditties on lots of different things. Today we're going to talk about like behavior 101. And I always say I can do behavior 101 in 90 seconds or less. Um, and sometimes in meetings, I'm like, hang on, I just did it yesterday, actually. Hang on, back up. I wanna like encapsulate how we do behavior, and how we help to manage behavior before we move forward because it is so simple. So today, in 12 minutes or less, which now I'm bad at math, but I think is like 9 minutes and 15 seconds or less, I am going to give you that little ditty on behavior 101. And my hope is that you can use this in your meetings. Okay. So I normally start off by saying we cannot change behavior. I'm sorry. That's not what I say. I say we cannot control behavior. We cannot control behavior. However, we can change behavior because behavior is science. And so once we figure stuff out, then we can change behavior. Humans change all the time, right? Like, I don't really love Starbucks, but I'm changing to drink Starbucks right now. So we can't control, but we can change behavior because behavior is science. And so we need to know what the science of behavior is, right? And so here's the deal behavior supports are really easy. Like the idea of changing behavior is super easy. First of all, we have to identify target behaviors and they have to be super specific. So we aren't talking necessarily about like a tantrum unless we define a tantrum and we all know what it looks like. But we might be talking about slamming our head on the table or cursing, or it could even be specific curse words if the cursing comes in different patterns. Okay. And so, first, step one, we identify the target behavior or behaviors. And normally we're looking at 2 or 3. Then, through a lot of really good record keeping, we have to identify the function of the behaviors. So, normally we do this through a process called a functional behavioral assessment. And we take really good ABC data and we do observations and we do all of these things. And so we do this FBA or we analyze the data that we have because it's science. Behavior happens fact. Behavior happens in patterns. Okay. So because behavior happens in patterns, we can study it. So we take really good data, we do observations, we do testing, we get all the information that professionals say we need to have, and then we identify the function of the behavior. really good news, everybody at this table. There's only four functions to the behavior. That makes it super easy. So the four functions are tangible item. That's the kid and target who's having a tantrum because they want the thing. They want a thing, a tangible item. Then there is sensory. So we're having some kind of sensory experience. Now, we could be seeking a sensory experience, we could be avoiding a sensory experience. And so we've got to figure out what specifically within a sensory profile we're trying to address. And then the third function in no particular order is escape. And we could be like escaping a sensory experience, for example, but we also could be escaping or avoiding some kind of work task, which they all think that is. And of course, we all want to escape every work task all the time. So I think that's an easy out sometimes. Um, and then the fourth one is attention. And again, we could be looking for um, positive or negative attention, and we might want to dive a little bit more into attention. Then there's kind of a pseudo fifth, which is a blended, like escaping sensory. We've got two different functions where the function changes in the middle of the behavior. Okay, so step one, identify the target behaviors. Step two, identify the functions. We've got four functions. That makes it super easy. Step three is kind of this three-part thing. We provide proactive access to the function, and then we provide very consistent reactive strategies when the behavior happens because we know it's going to happen because it has been happening. So, proactive access to attention, proactive access to that sensory experience, whether it's avoiding or it is accessing, some kind of alerting sensory experience or something. Proactive attention, proactive access to the tangible item. We are saying, you get the Play-Doh, you get the whatever, and then we also give them information as to when they're going to get it later. Now, attention, I think, is one of the coolest and trickiest, but also easiest once you figure it out. I always give the example, my kid wants attention and he will do like just weird things. He snorts like a pig sometimes in the middle of general education classes. He just wants your attention. It's because he's trying to find his place in the world. He wants to be a part of something, but then it's tricky because he also has social anxiety and feels like almost like a fight or flight when you just say, "Hey, how was your day?" And so what he actually craves is what I have figured out that works is attention to non-preferred, usually academic tasks. So make him sit down and read with you for 20 minutes, and then he'll pay attention to a 40-minute lesson. So that's an example of proactive attention. Okay. And then reactive strategies. This is where we're talking about consequences. So that every time we throw the marker, every time we curse, every time we whatever, this is what happens. Jack's a cusser. When he cusses at home, the first time is a warning. The second time he sits on the step. If he cusses while he's on the step, which he normally does, then the timer starts over. The timer is almost always on my Apple Watch. And I say to my Apple Watch, set a timer for 5 minutes or reset my timer for 5 minutes. I don't know if you know you could do that, but somehow I figured that out. So we do the same exact thing every single time because that feels really comfortable to the person. If it changes, if the place changes, if the amount of time changes, if the people change, if the consequence itself changes, if the consequence is implemented sometimes at the first occurrence, sometimes at the third occurrence, that is confusing. So a lot of times the supports that a school has in place are actually really good. But the implementation is either inconsistent or it's not done with fidelity across different environments. And that's okay. We just have to figure that out and then help the school, kind of tweak things. So it could be if you cuss in the art room, this is what happened. If you cuss in the general education room, this is what happened. But the fact of the matter is the student has to know, like, this is where I'm going to go. So if it's a 2-minute break, this is my break on the playground. This is my break place on the playground. This is my break place in the cafeteria. This is my break place. And all 5 of my specials are, or however many you have, so that they understand what is going to happen. If they don't understand what's going to happen, they're going to try things to see what's going to happen. Their body's like, huh, I wonder what happens if I cuss in here. I wonder where I go. All right, well, I'm just going to say it. And then they try it. Okay. It's human nature. So, and people say, oh, they're pushing boundaries. I'm like, well, they're just actually trying to figure out what the plan is. And they don't have the expressive language, especially when it surrounds their behavior a lot of times, in order to ask, hey, what's the plan if my body feels impulsive and a cuss word comes out? That just doesn't happen. Okay. So then we continue to take data and we see if it's working. And if it doesn't work, we tweak and then we teach and we tweak and we teach and we tweak and we teach and we have consistency the entire time. That is behavior 101. That is how you do it. Yesterday, I met with an advocate about a conversation I had with a school team, and I said, "This is how I recommend. This is what I said to the school team." And the advocate said, "I have said that 100 times, and it hasn't worked." And I was like, "Well, I mean, really, if you can boil it down to like a 4-minute thing, maybe you're more successful." So that is how I do it. And then I say something to the extent of normally it's either that the supports themselves need to be changed or the implementation of the supports needs to be changed. And so let's like get kind of nitty gritty into how the supports are done because it's human nature to want to explore the inconsistencies. And so we almost like we don't put the blame, so to speak, back on the kid, but we explore it through the inconsistencies without the blame. And when we use that language. Okay. 11 minutes, 48 seconds. If you are impressed by how much I can teach you in 12 minutes or less without an outline, imagine what I can do with an outline and with slides in the IEP Guru Academy videos. They are currently for sale. They're in bundles. We've got a bundle that talks about inclusion. We've got a bundle that talks about um, negotiation, teamwork, and advocacy. And we have a bundle that talks about, it's called Powerful Responses to Common Comments Made by School Teams. It's like when they try to shut you down with things like, yeah, we don't have the data to support that. And you're like, well, how do I respond to that? Um, each of them is under about 20 minutes. I think there's one that's 23 because it was so good. That's the one on interest-based negotiation. And, they're super cheap because that's what you told me you wanted. You told me you wanted super cheap, super quick, and power packed, and that's what they are. So hop over and grab them. You can comment on anything on Instagram to get the link. You just comment "Guru" and I'll send you the link. You can also, of course, DM me or you can go to the website and find them. I hope you have a great week and that you find some calm in the Christmas and holiday chaos.